We are in the
Hakdama.
We're not doing the Hakdama just yet. We're going to do right now. Yeah, we will do the Hakdama today, but we're going to start quickly with the Haskama Sarabanim Sheyichya B'nei Hagoyin HaMechaber Zal, page Gimel, opposite of page 4.
No, page Gimel.
So last week we learned the Haskamas, the endorsements, the approbations of two of the colleagues of the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Zusha of Anapoli, Rabbi Yehuda Bakoyin, and they were written for the original publication of the Tanya, which, as we mentioned last year, the Tanya was originally published in the year 1796. When the Tanya was originally published, there were two parts to Tanya. There was the Likutei Amarim, the 53 chapters of Likutei Amarim, which we already finished learning, and the second part was Shar Yichud V'Emunah. Shar Yichud V'Emunah is all about Achdus Hashem, the unity of Hashem, and the Kabbalistic concepts of Yehuda Ilah and Yehuda Tata, two different types of unity of Hashem, and that's Mir Hashem what we will begin studying soon. And that was, so the original Tanya contained Likutei Amarim and the Shar Yichud V'Emunah. Later on, during the lifetime of the Alter Rebbe, a third part was added to Tanya, and that was called the Igeres HaTshuva. That's the third part of Tanya, which is in the Sefer over here, which is 12 chapters, all about explaining the concept of Tshuva, also according to Nigla, but also according to Chassidus. What does it mean? What is Tshuva? What is the significance of Tshuva, and how is it done? And Mir Hashem will learn that also one day. So those were the three parts of Tanya that were published during the lifetime of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe passed away in the year 1812. He was a relatively young man. He was 68 years old. And it was during the famous war of Napoleon against the Russian government. And the Alter Rebbe sided with the Tsar. He sided very strongly with the Tsar. And he felt that Napoleon would be a disaster, a catastrophe for the Yidden. As he wrote, he says, if Napoleon wins, so it will mean material wealth for the Yidden. But it will be, spiritually speaking, it'll be terrible. As Taka happened to the Yidden in France, the situation of Yiddishkeit in France deteriorated greatly at that time. Not going into it right now, maybe for another time, another place. Napoleon's idea of emancipation and freedom was very different than the American idea. And Alter Rebbe was very strongly on the side of the Tsar, and in fact, even some of his Chassidim, we know at least of one of them who became a spy on behalf of the Tsar. His name was Moshe Meisels, who was fluent in languages and knew Russian and knew French, and he became actually a spy. Yeah. And Alter Rebbe was known for his very, very vocal and vehement opposition to Napoleon. Which, by the way, there was a divide then amongst the Gedolei Yisrael. There were many Gedolim who wanted Napoleon to win, because the Tsar was, by no stretch of the imagination, was he a friend of the Yidden. Right. Whereas Napoleon, as he entered Russia and made headway, so he arrived in the city where the Alter Rebbe was, the city of Liadi, and the Alter Rebbe escaped. He ran away, and while he was running away, he became ill, apparently from the trouble of traveling. And it was the middle of the winter, and the Russian winter is not easy, and he passed away while he was running away. So this was in the year 1812, and the next year, in the year Tafkuf Ayin Daled, which is 1813 or 1814, the next year, the sons of the Alter Rebbe republished Tanya. And by the way, this was the first time that the Tanya was published with the Alter Rebbe's name in it, because as we mentioned last week, the original editions of Tanya were anonymous, and they added to it two parts. And that's how we have the Tanya, which we have in front of us today, which is comprised of 5 different sections. There's 3 sections that were printed during the lifetime of the Alter Rebbe, which is Likutei Amarim and Shar Yichud V'Emunah and Igeres HaTshuva. And they added Igeres HaKodesh, which is 32 letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote. We'll get there one day also, Mir Hashem. Most of the letters are about the mitzvah of tzedakah. There are actually fundraising letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote, but every single one of them contains incredible insights according to Chassidus and according to Kabbalah on what tzedakah is all about. And then they added Kuntres Achron. Kuntres Achron is the 5th part of Tanya, which is without a doubt the most difficult part of Tanya. very, very Kabbalistic. It's actually Pulpulim and Kabbalah. And basically, as we'll see soon, that the sons of the Alter Rebbe say that while the Alter Rebbe was writing Tanya, so on the side he had his own notes, because he was trying to make sense out of the different statements in the Zohar and the words of the Arizal. Sometimes they seem to contradict each other, and especially in the Prokim, Lamed Ches, Lamed Tes, and Mem, the Alter Rebbe makes a lot of statements, but the Alter Rebbe on the side wrote for himself a bunch of notes to justify what he was saying, and to explain the different passages in the Zohar upon which it's based. That's called Kuntras Achran. So again, the Alter Rebbe's children, they published the new Tanya, now with 5 parts, and in doing so, they added this Haskama. Now obviously, when they're publishing their father's works, they're not giving a Haskama as if we approve of the content. That's not exactly appropriate for the children to say about their father that they approve of the content. But the Haskama is basically saying we gave permission for this to be printed. Number one, and number two, as we already saw last time also, one of the functions of Haskama back then was to also to enact a gzeira, a decree that no one should publish it for a certain amount of time, so as not to cause the publishers any financial harm. So let's do this inside. Again, page Gimel, opposite of page 4. Haskamas harabanim sheyichya. This is the Haskama of the rabbis, Bnei Hagoyin HaMechaber, the sons of the Goyin, the author, Zechreinu Lebracha Nishmas Amedin. Hayoisha Huskam Etzleinu, because we have agreed, Litein Rishus of Harmona, we gave permission and authorization, Lahales al Michba Shatfus, to bring to print, Lizikarin Livnei Yisrael, so that it should be something which is in the perpetual memory of Klal Yisrael, Kasuv Divrei Yesher Ve'emes, the words which are straightforward, the words which are true, Divrei Elokim Chaim, the divine words, Shal Adonenu Avinu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu Zal, of our father, the Rebbe. Ksuvim biksav yadi hakadosh ba'atzmi. These are letters. Again, this is primarily talking about the addition that they added, which is the 4th part, which is the letters. Ksuvim biksav yad hakadosh ba'atzmi. These are letters which the Alter Rebbe wrote with his own hand. Ulasheni hakadosh, and they're his own words. Shekol devarav, as we know, because by the way, that's a chiddush, because most of the Alter Rebbe's Torah is oral. We've spoken about this in the past. In other words, yes, we have the Tanya, which the Alter Rebbe wrote, and there are some letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote that we have, also in addition to what's printed in Tanya, and obviously the Alter Rebbe also wrote the Shulchan Aruch Harav. But the vast majority of the Alter Rebbe's Torah was not written by the Alter Rebbe. The Likutei Torah and Torah which is the Mamarim, the Chassidic discourses of the Alter Rebbe, they were transcribed, yes, by the different chayzim, the different people who heard it and wrote it down. I think we mentioned once how the Alter Rebbe, when he would say Torah, he'd get so excited that he would sometimes even do somersaults while he was saying the Torah. Literally, yeah.
He was in good shape.
What apparently, the Alter Rebbe was in very good shape. The Alter Rebbe was a tremendous giber.
I think that
He was a tremendous giber. They say that he would fast very often, the Alter Rebbe. And when did he know that he wasn't that he had to break his fast? I don't remember the exact number, but in the olden times the Gemaras were very, very heavy. I forget the number, but when he wasn't able to lift a certain amount of Gemaras with his left hand, he knew he had to break his fast. That was how he knew. Now, Alter Rebbe was known as he was a giber. Yeah. So the best chayzer, we used to do the somersaults together with the Alter Rebbe, so it was not to miss any words. But again, most of you see that set over there. You see the second shelf over there, that whole red set over there, also extending into the third. That's called Mamari Admur Azakin, which is the Chassidic discourses of the Alter Rebbe. So all that is the oral Torah of the Rebbe. So here they're saying what's special about the letters that they included over here in Tanya is that these were literally written by the Alter Rebbe, because when someone transcribes orally, you're not catching every word, and you're also more focused on the content, on the substance, rather than the exact words.
Look over the transcriptions to make sure it's correct.
Even if he did to some of them, he definitely did to some of them, but it's still not the same as him writing it. In other words, to say that every word is precise, the words that Alter Rebbe wrote is precise. When Alter Rebbe edited, he was editing more for the content of it. So, Shekol Dvarav, that all the words of the Alter Rebbe, Kegachali Eish Beireis, are like burning coals, Yalhivu Alavaves, they set ablaze the hearts, Lekarvan Lavian Shebeshamayim, to bring them close to the Father in heaven. Ubeshem Igeres HaKodesh Nikru, we have called this section Igeres HaKodesh, the holy letters. Sherubam Hayu, because most of them are Igeres Shaluach, letters sent Me'es Kveit Kedushasai, sent by His Holiness L'Hoyres L'Am Hashem Haderech Il Chuba, to teach the nation of Hashem the way, the path on which they should go, V'Amaisa Sheyason, the actions, that which they should do. Umachmatz, and because Shebekama Mekoimis, in many of the places in these letters, Hitziv Leitziyunim B'Sefer L'Kuti Amarim Shalai, the Alter Rebbe refers to L'Kuti Amarim. And as we know, a rule, V'divrei Torah aniyim b'makom echad v'ashirim b'makom acher. We know as a rule that sometimes words of Torah are poor in one place and rich elsewhere. In other words, that's the derech of Torah, that sometimes something is written in one place in short, and in the other place it's elaborated upon. So what they're saying is that sometimes there's something which is written in short in L'Kutei Amarim, but it's elaborated upon in the Igeres HaKodesh. So that's why they're adding it to the Tanya. Umagam, Bishvil Davish and Eschadash Bay, and especially also there is something new here, which is Kuntris Achron. This is the 5th section of Tanya. Kuntris Achron, I guess that literally translates as the last booklet. Al Eza Prakim. The Kuntris Achron is on some of the Prakim of Tanya, Asher Kosav, which the Alter Rebbe wrote, Be'ez Chibrei HaSefer L'Kutei Amarim. While he was authoring the Sefer L'Kutei Amarim, so the Alter Rebbe wrote Pilpul V'iyun Amuk. These are pilpulim and very deep expositions. Al Mamari Zohar Ve'etz Chaim V'Pri Etz Chaim Shenirim Kesoisrim Zeh and statements of the Zohar and statements in the Eitz Chaim and the Pri Eitz Chaim. Both of those are from the Kisvei HaRizal, the writings of the Rizal, and they seem to be contradicting one another. But in Muruach Mifinasayim, with the wisdom the Alter Rebbe has, Meyashvam, he reconciles them. Kol Dibur Alefanav, every single statement now makes sense. Shekasa L'Kutei Amarim, now we understand. It helps us understand what Alter Rebbe wrote in L'Kutei Amarim. So therefore, Roi Re'inu, we've seen Sheroi V'Nochin, that it is proper L'Chabram to append them in Sefer L'Kutei Amarim, to the Sefer of L'Kutei Amarim, V'Igeres HaTshuva Shal Kvei Kedushas Adinenu Avinu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu Zechenu Levracha. Ilo Zeis, and therefore Ba'anu, we have come Lahatil Guda Rabba, we've come to make a big fence. Ugezeiras Nachash de Rabbanan, the Gezeira of the snake of the Rabbanan, the Lesla Asvasa that cannot be healed. The word Nachash is the Rosh Tevis of Nidui, Cherem, Shamta, which are all different forms of excommunication. And together they form the word Nachash, a snake which has a venom and bites. In other words, if you break this Cherem, it's like a snake that bites and you can't be healed from that venom. So therefore, that we're making a very strong Gezeira, Shalayarim Ishas Yadai, no one should lift their hand, Lahatfis, to print Kitav Nisam in the current form, Ezeb B'Lezeh, or even one without the other. In other words, there are 5 parts of Tanya, even to print one without the other. Meshech Hamisha Shanim, for 5 years, Miyem Dolmata, from the day signed below. Beram, however, Kigoinda at this point, Sharach Le'edui, we have to give a little of a disclaimer, we have to let you know. Sheba V'Nisenu Arabim, that due to our many sins, Safu Tamu, Kisve Yadei HaKadosh Ba'atzmai. The actual letters as written in the handwriting of the Alter Rebbe no longer exist, which is kind of interesting.
What happened?
I don't know, they got lost. Maybe they were sent around, maybe they were private collectors, I don't know. But they did, in other words, when they were coming to print these letters, they didn't have the actual Ksav Yad of the Alter Rebbe. Asher Hayu B'Diktu Gadol, the actual words of the Alter Rebbe obviously were extremely precise. Lechaser v'leyater eis echad, there wasn't one letter added, one letter missing. V'lenishar ki'im, but all that's left to us is zeh hama'at maharbe, is the little of the many yashenilkitu echad le'echad, which we gathered one by one. Mahatokos hamufuzarim eitzel hatalmidim, all we have is copies which are scattered about, spread about amongst the talmidim. Therefore, why did they find this important to write? Therefore, they're saying if you find any mistake in the Igeres HaKodesh, so that's who could understand the reason why there are always mistakes. You will find that if it's an obvious mistake, you'll realize it's Metos Sefer. You'll realize it's Pashat a copying error. V'kavana tia brura, and the intention of the Alter Rebbe still should remain clear. Hayom Yom Hey, they're signing on Thursday, Chav Beis Iyar, the 22nd of Iyar, Tavkuf Ayin Daled, Lefrat Katan. And here we have the sons signed. All the Alter Rebbe had 3 sons. The oldest one is Neum Deiv Ber, Ben Adinenu Avinu Merinu Rabbeinu Agoyin Achaset Kadesh Yisrael Meranav Rabbana Shnei Zalman. Zechin Levrachan. Shmasa begins in Rebbe. He's the one who succeeded the Alter Rebbe. That was his oldest son. He was born a year after the Maggid of Mezrich passed away. The Alter Rebbe's teacher was the Maggid of Mezrich, whose name was Deiv Ber. So he was named after the Alter Rebbe's teacher. And the second son, Chaim Avram, also Ben Adinenu Avinu Merinu Rabbeinu Agoyin Achasim Meranav Rabbana Shnei Zalman Zatzal Navgam. And the third son, Moshe Ben Adinenu Yavi Meir Vernavi Agoyin Achasim Shnei Zalman Zal Navgam. Okay, that's that.
How many years since he was Niftar, the order took them? How many years to get it together?
This was the year after he passed away.
Oh, almost a year.
1 year, yeah. The Alter Rebbe passed away in Tavkuf Ayin Gimel, and this is Tavkuf Ayin Dalet. Again, the first 3 sections of first 3 parts of Tanya were printed in the Alter Rebbe's lifetime. This was the last 2 parts. Yeah.
These were separate publications. Not like we have it today in one chibur.
No. The first time that it was published all together, and one chibur was this publication, which they're referring to. They published it all together.
All together.
Yes.
Not 3 separate publications.
No. This was they published the 3 parts of Tanya, which
was before the Rebbe was alive.
Which were published together. The 3 were published together. Yeah, during the Alter Rebbe's lifetime, and now they added these 2 parts, and for the first time, right? And ever since.
Put it all together. They put the whole thing like the secret.
Right. This is actually 1814. Tavkuf Ayin Daled would be 1814, that would and ever since that, when you say Tanya, that's a reference to the Sefer that includes all 5 parts. Okay, so we did so far. We did the title page. We spent a few minutes on that last week. The Alter Rebbe explains the goal of Tanya is Kikara Ve'elecha, to explain the pasuk Kikara Ve'elecha Adavar Miyoid Beficha V'Vavcha La'aseh. And then we did the Haskamas of Rabbi Naftali and Yehuda Lebakoyin. We learned the Haskama of the sons of the Alter Rebbe. And now the last thing we have to do is we have to learn now is the actual foreword of the Alter Rebbe, the Hakdama of the Alter Rebbe. And page 6, Hakdama Samalakit. So this is the Hakdama of the compiler. Once again, the Alter Rebbe remains here anonymous, because this was printed already in the first edition of Tanya. So the Alter Rebbe, he was anonymous and he was a compiler. That's all he was compile different things. Vihi igeres hashlucha leklalos anshe shleimenu. This is a letter which the Alter Rebbe sent to all the anash, all the members of the Chassidic community. Yivarchem, tzureim, v'yishmereim. May God bless them and keep them. Now, this letter actually was written before the Alter Rebbe published Tanya. As we mentioned last week, well before the Alter Rebbe, in the years before the Tanya was published, in the year 1796, already the Chassidim had the booklets of Tanya were already distributed by hand copy, it wasn't printed, it was distributed amongst Chassidim. So already several years before the Alter Rebbe printed the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe wrote this letter to Anash, explaining to them the reason why he was writing Tanya. As you will see, we probably won't get to this week, but we'll see the very end of the Hakdama from over here, the very last, the last paragraph on the next page. That was a part the Alter Rebbe added for the actual publication of Tanya in 1796. But the whole beginning of this letter was written beforehand. There was a letter sent by the Alter Rebbe wherein he explains his purpose and why he's writing Tanya.
We know who is the Melaket? Doesn't say his name.
The Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya.
Oh,
He
that's
decided
him.
to be anonymous.
But when he published it, again, until after the Alter Rebbe passed away, the Tanya was always printed without his name. His name did not appear in Tanya until after he passed away. So Alter Rebbe writes, Aleichem ishim ekra, I call out to you, chashuv people, chashuv gentlemen, shimu elai, listen to me, reitfei tzedek, those who pursue righteousness, mevakshi Hashem, those who seek Hashem. If you listen to me, v'yishma aleichem elikim, and may God listen to you. L'megadil vad katan, this letter is written to all of you, from the greatest to the smallest. Kol anash dimdino seinu, all every member of the Chassidic community in our country, usmuche shala, and in the countries that are adjacent to where the Alter Rebbe was. Ish al mekime yavi l'shalom, every single person should in his place should find peace. V'chayim ad ha'olam, and life forever. Netzach salavod amin ken yiratzon. Okay, the function of this Hakdama, of this introduction to the Alter Rebbe, is either, it's not clear whether the Alter Rebbe was receiving complaints from Chassidim about the Tanya, or whether the Alter Rebbe was trying to preempt complaints that he felt that he would get. And the reason for this is that, as the Alter Rebbe will explain as we continue in the Hakdama, that Tanya was meant to replace Yechidus. Tanya was meant to replace Yechidus. We know that when a Chassid goes in for a private audience to his Rebbe, it's called Yechidus. And this is an age-old tradition that Chassidim go into their Rebbe for a private audience. And obviously one of the reasons why Chassidim regularly go into the Rebbe is to ask for brachas, in whatever area it might be, whether it's health or shidduchim or parnasa. But another purpose of going into Yechidus, equally as important and probably more important, Chassidim would go into the Rebbe and they would tell them their issues, their problems in Avodas Hashem, their blockages, their impediments, their obstacles, their nisyonis, and the Rebbe would advise them on how to be able to serve Hashem better, how to overcome the different issues that they have. At a certain point, however, the Alter Rebbe, what he accomplished in a few decades was incredible. He literally had hundreds of thousands of Chassidim in Lithuania, and in White Russia, and in Russia. Again, he was a young man, but apparently the Torah of the Alter Rebbe was so attractive. It literally attracted hundreds of thousands of Chassidim. And it came a point where it was just too difficult for the Alter Rebbe to be able to receive everyone individually. And the Alter Rebbe said, although he continued receiving people, and by the way, the Alter Rebbe instituted very strong takanas. It was called takanas liyashna. Takanas means enactments. It was very strict about when Chassidim were allowed to come. Chassidim were only allowed to come once a year. And how many, in other words, largely because of the demand. It was impossible to accommodate everyone whenever they wanted. And you had your time to come, and if you came at a different time, you had to have permission, like I think written permission from the mashpia in your city, otherwise you wouldn't be allowed. It was very strict. Alter Rebbe was very strict about these things. But again, largely because of the practical considerations. This interesting parallel we find with our Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that also used to receive people for Yechidus. And at a certain point in time, it just became impossible. The Rebbe stopped, and the Rebbe stopped receiving people on Yechidus. And we know that he started giving out dollars to people, and yes, people had the opportunity to ask questions then also. But it's an interesting parallel. And the points that the Alter Rebbe is going to write over here, perhaps also we can apply that to the Rebbe, because the Rebbe also just started giving advice, but more in a public venue. Just like the Alter Rebbe said, I'm going to write a sefer which is going to help everybody. The Rebbe also, he started speaking more often to the Chassidim, and the Rebbe said on numerous occasions, I'm addressing everyone. And everyone's questions is being addressed over here. In fact, there are people who wrote into the Rebbe and said, the question, the Rebbe said, I answered by the Farbrengen yesterday. The Rebbe would say that, yes.
But why he didn't do like Yitro, like Moshe Rabbeinu with Yitro, and Yitro saw that Moshe Rabbeinu cannot take care, he told him.
Made deputies.
Yeah. Why didn't do the same?
They were not competent to give the answers.
I think if you look in Yisrael, you look in the Mefarshim, it's a little different. The people were coming to Moshe Rabbeinu for Din Teiros. I understand, it's different. If you look in the Ramban, actually, the Ramban says that people still had to come to Moshe Rabbeinu for certain things. Certain things only Moshe was able to do. There were certain things he was able to delegate, but not everything. He was able to delegate that if two people had an argument about who the ox belonged to, that he could delegate. But to tell them, to give them over the messages from Hashem, Moshe couldn't delegate that. That the Yidden kept on coming to Moshe Rabbeinu for that. So here the Alter Rebbe is writing Tanya. And he says it clearly, as we'll learn. I don't know if we'll learn it this week or learn it next week. He says very clearly that this is in the place of Yechidus. Now you don't have to come and push in, and you don't have to come and press yourself to come in to see me privately. I'm writing you a sefer. Here are all the answers to all your questions. So again, I don't know whether Chassidim were already complaining to the Alter Rebbe about it, or whether he was just preempting what Chassidim were going to say. But the Alter Rebbe understood that Chassidim are not going to be happy with this. They're going to want to come in Yechidus. And so over here in the first part of the Hakdama, over here in the first part of the introduction, the Alter Rebbe is going to give voice to the feelings of the Chassidim. And the Alter Rebbe is going to say, here are the reasons why it's better to go into Yechidus than to learn a sefer. In other words, he's going to say, and the Alter Rebbe is actually going to give three reasons why Chassidim prefer to enter into Yechidus and to go and speak to the Rebbe face to face than to learn a sefer. That's going to be the first part of the Hakdama, until you see on the next page here where it says Ach b'yodev makirek. The next part, Alter Rebbe is going to say, however, and he's going to explain why nevertheless he's writing the sefer. But the first part is over here is just, again, giving voice to either the concerns that he was already hearing from the Chassidim, or perhaps that which he knew that the Chassidim would feel when they get the Tanya. Let's do this inside. Hine. Muda Zois, it is known. Ki margala bepumi de inshade. It's something which is a standard, you'll hear it from the mouths of the people, B'chol Anash, of all the Chassidim Lemer. It's a standard thing. It's like an adage that they say, Ki eina doima shmiyas divrei musar. You can't compare hearing words of musar. Remember, when the Alter Rebbe says the musar here, he doesn't mean the musar movement. This is before the musar movement began, and possibly, I'm not sure exactly the history, possibly before Rabbi Sol Salanter was born. But musar means words of teaching and words of guidance. So you can't compare hearing words of musar and guidance, l'ri'iyah ukriya b'sfarim, to seeing it and reading about it in Sfarim. So what's interesting is that the Alter Rebbe is obviously playing off a famous Maimer Chazal, Eini doima ri'iyah l'shmiya, or Eini doima shmiya l'ri'iyah. And when we say Eini doima shmiya l'ri'iyah, what are we saying? Which one is the greater one? Re'iyah is the greater one. When you see is the greater one. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying the opposite. The Chassidim, they say you can't compare hearing actual guidance from the Rebbe to seeing it in the Sefer. Which one is superior? Hearing. No. The Chassidim were saying they prefer to go in and hear words of guidance from the Rebbe rather than sing in a Sefer. So even though that it's playing off a Maimer Chazal which talks about the superiority of seeing, but here it's a little reversed. What?
The written word is there, so it's established.
Yes, but Chassidim preferred to go in, instead of reading a sefer, they wanted to go into the Rebbe and hear the Rebbe speaking to them. Right. Why? And like I said, the Alter Rebbe is going to give three reasons
what would that be?
Why that would be. Yes. Reason number one has nothing to do with the content of the sefer, of the book, but it's a shortcoming of the reader. Insight. Shakoire, because when one reads a book, koire, the person reads lefi darkei v'daitei. You're using your own understanding, your own pathway, ulefi hasagas o tfisa sichloi, and according to that which your intellect can grasp, b'hashar hu sham, wherever you may be. And if your mind is confused, and you're in complete darkness with regard to the service of Hashem, it is so difficult to see the light, although the light is good. Haganus b'sfarim, which is hidden in the Sfarim. Even though that in truth the light which is in the Sefer is sweet for the eyes, and can bring healing to the soul. But nevertheless, as we all know, this is something which we all experience. We open up a Sefer and we have no idea what the person is trying to say. It's too deep, it's too difficult. And depending on how wise you are, how smart you are, how much experience you have in Avodas Hashem, the problem with reading a Sefer is that many times the limitations, your intellectual limitations, and the fact that your mind might be fixed in a certain way. It's not always that you're stupid. It's not always that a person is stupid, but sometimes also you're not grasping what the teacher is saying is because you're so far elsewhere, and your mind views and understands everything from such a different paradigm, in such a different way, that you just don't get what the author is saying. So reason number one, or deficiency number one with reading a sefer, as opposed to going into Yechidus, is that when you read a sefer, your ability to be able to absorb the light in the sefer and to be able to get the light and to be able to understand and allow it to heal you depends on your intellectual capabilities and your personal avodas Hashem. On the other hand, when a person goes into the Rebbe and goes into Yechidus and receives guidance, the Rebbe knows who you are, and the Rebbe can see if you're in the darkness. And if you are, the Rebbe is going to speak to you those particular words that you need to hear, which you'll be able to get based on your intellect, and the Rebbe will be able to shift you away from your mistaken notions and be able to lead you in the right way. So reason number one why it's preferable to hear orally words of encouragement and advice from a Rebbe as opposed to learning about in a sefer is, once again, in a sefer. And how often does it happen that you read something, you hear something, someone who read something, you got it completely wrong? That's not a problem with the sefer, that's the problem with you. However, when you go into the Rebbe, that problem will be mostly fixed, unless your mom is stubborn and insistent in not understanding, because the Rebbe will see, no, you're not understanding correctly. Explain it again, he'll explain it another way. Explain it according to the Rebbe gets you. He'll be able to explain it in a way that you can understand. So problem number one in looking at Sfarim is you. It's not the sefer, but is you. The next two problems that the Alter Rebbe will describe are not problems in you, but there are certain problems that are inherent in Sfarim. There are certain, I wouldn't call it problems, but drawbacks that are inherent in Sfarim. Back inside. Ubar Mindain, besides for this issue which we just explained, Hine Sifrei Hayira, Habinuyim al Pisechel Anushi. There are certain Sfarim, what we call Sifrei Hayira, Sifrei Musar, which they're constructed upon human intellect, human logic. Now, Alter Rebbe doesn't identify by name which Sfarim he's talking about. And to be clear, the Alter Rebbe is talking about Sfarim that were written by holy people. We're not talking here about Sfarim that were written by people who we shouldn't be learning their Sfarim. Alter Rebbe says there were certain holy people who wrote Sfarim of Yira. Sfarim Yira means Sfarim with advice in areas of Avodas Hashem. However, those Sfarim were based on human logic. The person sat and thought and figured out strategies and ways to overcome the Yetzer Hara, strategies and ways to be more productive, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with writing a sefer which is based on utilizing the mind that Hashem gave you and the logic that Hashem gave you. But what's the problem with that? Problem that is, bivadai, it is certain that einan shavin l'chol nefesh, that these Sfarim, they're not one size fits all. They're not for everyone. They're for people who were like-minded and like personality of the author. Why? Ki ein kol hasichlim vadei yeshavis. Not all minds and not all personalities are the same. Ve'ein seichel adam zeh mispol mis'oder. The seichel of one person is not moved and awakened mimasha mispol mis'oder seichel chaverei, from that which another person gets awakened from and gets excited and moved by. And I'm sure everyone here has had that experience. Maybe you went with a friend, maybe you went with your spouse and you went to a lecture and one of you walks out like, wow, that was the most amazing thing in the world. Another one walks out and says, And so was the speaker good, was the speaker bad? The answer is neither. It's all subjective. You know, the one who you went with was all excited about is because that person shares a personality type with the speaker, and therefore the speaker who was wise and was able to express him or herself well, and therefore that spoke to that person and it really awakened. And your mind works differently, your heart works differently, your personality is different, and that person didn't speak to you. Which again, that's not a problem, it's not a deficiency, that's part of human nature, is that people are different. As the Gemara says, right? Geshem shein partzuveim shaven kachein the same shaven. Just like our faces aren't alike, so also our minds don't work alike. Our personalities are different one from another. And this is a challenge when you're trying to make something which is one size fits all. It's almost impossible. So that's something that I experience on a regular basis, because my job, I work, the organization I work for is called JLI, the Jewish Learning Institute. So we create curriculums which the shluchim teach around the world, Torah curriculums on different topics. And we always, after we finish, we create different courses, and the shluchim give the courses, and always afterwards we survey the shluchim and ask them what they thought of the course. Did they like it? They didn't like it. What did they like? What didn't they like? Because we're always trying to improve based on the feedback that we get. What's interesting is that, first of all, you'll never get a course which everyone says is good. It never happens. It's always, you can have 97% of the people saying it was amazing, and you'll have 3% saying, it wasn't so great. And then sometimes, and this has happened a few times, and I'm scratching in my head. We're talking about, there's 300, 400, shluchim who give it, who we survey, and you'll have sometimes that 90% of the shluchim will say, because every course has 6 lessons, they'll say, it was a good course, but lesson 3 was shvach, wasn't good. You'll always have the one person who will say, lesson 3 was the best lesson of the entire course. You'll always have that one thing which everyone thought was a little the weaker one shliach will come along and say, oh, that was amazing. Because ain't they the same Shabbos. That's the way it works in this world. Our minds work differently. You can never, you can never please everyone. There's a reason why you can't please everyone. It's an impossibility, because people are different. People are opposites from each other, and what makes one person happy makes another person sad, etc. That's the way it works. So the problem with it is that sefer that's written based on logic. So the author, who was a wonderful person and probably a tzaddik, but that person tapped into his own personality and said, here's what moves me, this is what helps me fight my Yitzhara. This is what helps me serve Hashem. And it's possible that a lot of people, it will resonate with them, but some people will be, for me that doesn't work. So 1 second. Maybe you're going to think, okay, everyone is different, but maybe someone who's really wise can get everyone. Is that possible? Maybe you can have a person who is so wise that person gets everyone. So we find, Chazal tell us, Mesechtes Brachas, Gabe Birchas Chacham HaRazim, Al Shishim Ribim Yisrael. There's a special bracha that's made when 600,000 Yidden come together. And as you know, 600,000 represents the entire spectrum of Klal Yisrael. Our nation began at 600,000, which means that there are 600,000 different types of neshamas. We'll talk more about that soon. And therefore, when 600,000 Yidden get together, it's like we have the entire spectrum of the whole Klal Yisrael. I don't know when was the last time that 600,000 Yidden got together. It's an interesting question, trivia question. There were 600,000 Yidden there?
It was almost a million people.
So then did everyone make this bracha? Because there's a bracha to be made. So the bracha is, the bracha that's made is Chachabarach Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Chacham HaRazim.
What's Razim?
Razim means the secrets. The wise one of the secrets. So what does that mean? So the Gemara explains that what does it mean? Why is that bracha made? Because she'ein de'yisem doim mezula zuvuchulu. Because when you have 600,000 people, again, you have the full range and spectrum of different personalities. It's impossible for any one individual to be able to get 600,000 different Yidden. Why? Because no one mind, the limited human mind cannot get every single person. Some people get a small amount of people. When I say get, I mean connect with, understand. If you're a smarter person, you'll get 70%, 80%. But the ability that to have every single different type of person and to be able to relate to and get and understand every single one of them, even the best therapists can't do that. The only one is Hashem. And Hashem
gets every single individual. And that's why when you have 600,000 Yidden together, we say, blessed be Hashem, Chacham, the wise one, who knows the secrets that are within every single one's heart. Now, not that Hashem is a mind reader, that's not the point. The point here is that He's the one who's able to understand every single person. But that's not humanly possible. That's only possible for Hashem. A human being cannot understand everyone. Therefore, when a human being writes a sefer, automatically it has that limitation in that it'll appeal to a certain segment of the population. If it's a bestseller, that means obviously it appeals to a larger segment of the population. But there will always be certain people who are left out. The Ramban goes further. In his Ramban Sefer Melchames Hashem over there, Masechtas Brachas, he brings down, we'll do this first outside, no one do this inside. The Gemara there says, the Gemara talks about how there was an Amira who encountered another two Amiraim, and the Amira wanted to make the bracha of Chacham HaRazim upon seeing these two people. And the Ramban explains, how would you make a bracha? Chacham HaRazim is a bracha which we make
600.
Well, no, saying that only Hashem can get everyone. Right? Yeah, it's when 600,000 Yidden together. But what's the meaning of the brachas that we're saying? Is only a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And here he wanted to say it about these two great people. So the Ramban brings down, we'll have this in a few weeks, the Parsha and Parsha's Pinchas, that it says when Moshe Rabbeinu was about to pass away, and when he finally realized the finality of what was about to happen, so Moshe turns to Hashem and he says to Hashem, Hashem Elekei Aruchos L'chol Basar. Hashem, the God of all the spirits, of all people, Yifkaid Hashem Elekei Aruchos L'chol Basar, may Hashem, the God of the spirits of all people, let him Yifkaid, let him appoint Ish Asher Ruach Boy, a person who has Ruach, who has a spirit, to lead the people. So the Sifri says, on this pasuk, the Sifri says that when Moshe asked that he wants Ish Asher Ruach Boy, he wants a person who has Ruach within him. So the Sifri says, and Rashi brings it down to the pasuk, that this means that Moshe asked for someone sheyochei lahalich keneged ruchei shel kol echad ve'echad, someone who has the ability to be able to relate to every single individual.
You didn't know that Yeshua will continue?
Moshe asked Hashem to appoint such a person.
But he didn't know that.
But it's not humanly possible. Again, we just said before, it's not humanly possible for a person to be able to relate to every person. That's why Moshe prefaced it. He said, Yifkoid Hashem Elikei Haruchos L'chol Basar. Right? He should have said, Yifkoid Hashem Ish Asher Ruach Boy. What is Yifkoid Hashem Elikei Haruchos? He says, Hashem, you're Elikei Haruchos. You get everyone. I want you to take some of your spirit and put it into the upcoming leader, so the leader also should be able to relate to every single person. And Hashem granted that request. So Yeshua was a leader who had the ability to be able to relate to every single individual on their level, but not because that's a human possibility, because humanly it's impossible, but because of Lekei Haruchos, because the Hashem, He gave him that special. And therefore, also that Amira wanted to say Chacham HaRazim about those two other rabbis, because he felt that they also had this divine gift. Again, it's not a human gift, but this divine gift of being able to relate to every single individual. Let's do this inside. As the Ramban explains in a Sefer Melchames Hashem over there, the Pirush HaSifri, he explains the Sifri Gabi Yeshua, regarding Yeshua, regarding whom it says Ish Asher Ruach Boy. About Yeshua it says that he has the spirit within him. He's able to relate to every person. Why? Because of Elekei Ruches. Interestingly, obviously this is something which wasn't limited to Yeshua, but an emissary, Reish B'nai Yisrael, someone who's an emissary leader of Klal Yisrael, has this ability also to be able to relate to every person in his generation. It's not a human gift. It's something which comes from above, and this is something, as a chassid of the Rebbe, this is something which was very what's the word I'm looking for? It was very obvious, very apparent by the Rebbe. This gift, which is not a human gift, to be able to relate to every single person on their level. And if you look at today, first of all, you look at Lubavitch today, and it encompasses people of all different personalities and temperaments and styles, and no one gets along with each other. Okay, I didn't mean that. Strike that from the record. And you're like wondering, but all these people, they all looked at the Rebbe and said, "This is my Rebbe." But what? If you think that these people would like a Rebbe who's their style, and these people would like a Rebbe who's their style, and these people would like a Rebbe who's their style, and here we have everyone looking at the same Rebbe, and people who are mamish in the opposite side of the spectrum, so different in every which way, in their personalities, in their priorities, and the funny thing is, they all look at the Rebbe and say that that the Rebbe is like me. They all say that the Rebbe, those people. Some people are more. More logical. Some people are more, more the Emunah based or Simcha based, and everyone, they point to the Rebbe. And that's the idea that an Emes Tzaddik, Emes Reish B'nai Yisrael, has this ability which is not human. It's really not human being. You have the people you get, and though they're your friends, they're the people you relate to. But mamish to be able to relate to every single person. And this was something that many people also went into Yechidus by the Rebbe. People from all different, not only Lubavitchers, but people from all over the spectrum of the Jewish world. They went in, and everyone felt, they walked out to hear from so many people saying, "We're so surprised. The Rebbe wasn't what I thought he was. The Rebbe got me. Like I thought." And everyone would say the same thing. Whoever walked in, the Rebbe connected to them on their level and was able to get to them. It wasn't a one size fits all. Yes?
I just want to point out, Ish Yeshua, the Eibishter, when Moshe asked Hashem to point someone, it doesn't say Ish Yeshua, it says, Yishka Hashem HaKeruchas V'chalbach, so Ish Aleida. The Rashi says, he asked him, Minei Aleim Malik, appoint a Malik, Sheikh Stoivu, Kolekha V'echad L'fi Daita. Rashi, that's Lashon Tzifri.
Continue in the pasuk. That Hashem said, "Isha by Yeshua, Isha sheruach boy."
Then Hashem said,
Isha sheruach boy.
Over there, Rashi says, Isha Tzifri says, Yeshua boy, sheyochel lahalach k'neged rucha shkulach lecha.
Right.
I want to hear your opinion. Hashem, when Moshe asked Hashem, he asked, "Minei aleim malik sheyeh soivel kolach lecha." If he died there. Interesting Lashon, she's soivel. When the Eibishter pointed to Shruach, he said, "Shichol lalach k'neged rucha lecha." I want to say.
It's interesting diuk. I don't know. I'd have to look in and think about it. That's an interesting diuk. So the second problem that we have with Svarim, the Alter Rebbe says again, the first problem we said is there's a problem with you. The Sefer is good, the Sefer is beautiful, the Sefer is, there's oyer, there's so much light in the Sefer, but you're blocked. Why are you blocked? Because of your limited capacity, your limited intellect. That was the first problem the Alter Rebbe said. Now the Alter Rebbe is saying there's another issue, which is the problem with looking at a Sefer might be that the Sefer isn't made for you. You understand how that's distinct from the first problem? The first problem we said was that the problem with the Sefer is made for you, but you don't see it, you can't relate to it. You're in the dark, your mind isn't working. The second problem Dr. Rebbe says with looking at a Sefer is the Sefer might not be for you. The Sefer might have been written for a different personality type. Well, today we talk about there's type A personality and type B personality. I'm not even sure what's what, right? And then if you want, you have there's whole Titus. I know the people you have. It's the type A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and every person is categorized. You guys know what I'm talking about? There are books about this. Yeah. And sometimes I'm a K, and you're a M, right? And the problem is that the Sefer that you're looking at, you might be a K, and it was written by an M. That's the problem, and therefore it's not for you. The issue isn't that there's a limit to, that you're going in the darkness or your intellect is limited. The issue is it's not for you. So that's. And once again, if you go into a Rebbe, befrat, if you accept that a Rebbe is Isha Sheruach Boy, a person who has that ability, then the Rebbe will guide you according to your capabilities. So again, so far we have two drawbacks with looking at a Sefer, and the drawbacks are that number one is you might be limited, and number two is the Sefer might not be for you. Let's continue inside. Now we're going to come up with the third issue. Even if you're talking about Sfarim of Yira of Musar, Asher Yisaydeisam Baharei Kodesh, that are based completely in the holy mountains, which are Medrashi Chazal, the Medrashim of our Chachamim. Asher Ruach Hashem Diber Bamu Milosi Al Shoinam. This is mamish, the words of Hashem. What you have in the Medrashim is the words of Hashem. And I wonder if the word Ruach that Alter Rebbe uses over here isn't precise. I didn't see anyone saying that. But earlier we mentioned the idea of Ruach as being the ability to be able to relate to every single person. Within the Medrash there's a Ruach, the Ruach Hashem, which is why the Medrash talks to every single Yid. The Medrashim are the spirit of Hashem, and the words of Hashem are on the tongues of the Bali HaMedrash. The Eiraisa v'kuchabrichu kulachad, and Hashem and the Torah are one. So, if the Sefer of Musar is not built on human logic, but is built on the words of Chazal, then this is Torah. Torah and Hashem is one. V'chol shishim yiribay neshama is klalos Yisrael. All 600,000 neshamas of the Yidden, uprateim uprati prateim, and their details and the details of their details. We'll get in that into a second. Ad nitzutz kal shebekalim, to the point, to the spark which is in the neshama of even the lowest Yid, upchusi erech, the most worthless sheba amenu, bnei Yisrael in our nation. Kulu miskashron be'iraisa, everyone connects to Hashem. Ve'iraisa hiyam bekasheres eisam lakadosh baruch hu, and the Torah connects us to Hashem. We all connect to Torah, and Torah connects us to Hashem. K'neida b'zeir HaKadosh as known as Zeir. So now we hit a stumbling block over here. Alter Rebbe is saying, okay, but what if there's a sefer that's written, it's all based on Torah. If it's based on Torah, here we can't say that the sefer isn't for me. We can't say it was written by a M and I'm a K. Why? Because if it's Torah, every single Yid, the neshama of every single Yid is rooted in Torah. In fact, the Megala Amukhe says that the words, the name Yisrael, for Bnei Yisrael, the word Yisrael is a Rosh Tevis for Yesh Shishim Ribui Ois Yis La Torah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. So every single Yid is connected to Torah. Every single Yid's neshama is rooted in Torah. And the Torah connects every Yid to Hashem. The Zohar tells us, Tlas Kishin Miskashran Da B'da. There are three things, three entities, and they're tied. They're connected one to another. Yidden are connected to Torah, and Torah is connected to Hashem. And that's why when a Yid learns Torah, a Yid connects to Hashem. So if a Sefer is written on based on Torah, here we can't say that it doesn't apply to you, that it's not for your disposition, it's not for your temperament, it's not for your personality type. It's Torah. And all Yidden are rooted in Torah. And he says over here, all 600,000 neshamas, and their details and details of their details. We have in Tanya, later on in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Lamed Zayin, the Alter Rebbe brings down from Kabbalah, from Sifri Kabbalah, that there are 600,000 original neshamas. And he says, V'chol sheidish, these were roots. The 600,000 neshamas that went out of Mitzrayim, they were root souls. V'chol sheidish mischalek l'shishim ribuy nitzotzis. Every one of those 600,000 neshamas divided into 600,000 parts. So 600,000 times 600,000, if I remember correctly, I think is 3.4 trillion. But don't hold me to that. But it's not less than that. If anything, maybe it's more than that. Most calculators can't do that amount of numbers. So every single neshama, which is a nitzutz of the original 600,000, is all rooted in Torah. Torah connects us to Hashem. So the question therefore becomes, how is it? No, so therefore, l'chayra, if a sefer is written on Torah, then you have no more excuse to say I need to go into Yechidus. You can't say it doesn't talk to me. What do you mean it doesn't talk to you? It's Torah, and Torah talks to you. So we'll continue on this Emir Tashem next week, but we'll end off with a cute story. I might have said it before. That in Tzfas, in the 1500s, where the Arizal lived, as you know, there were many, many great people who lived in Tzfas at that time. And one of the people who lived in Tzfas at that time was the Alshich. And the Alshich wanted to learn Kabbalah. So So he came to the Arizal and asked the Arizal to teach him Kabbalah. So the Arizal said, fine. So they made a chavrusa. But as soon as they started learning Kabbalah, the Alshich fell asleep. Okay, maybe he was tired. They tried it again. Same thing happened. Again, the same thing happened. Every time that the Arizal would start learning Kabbalah, the Alshich, he fell asleep. And obviously he felt very bad about that, the Alshich, and he told him, that Arizal told him, don't feel bad. Your neshama is connected to the world of Drush, not to the world of Soida. That's why you're falling asleep. The Rebbe actually repeated this story more than once. And the context was, the Rebbe would sit by Farbrengen and Shabbos, and the Rebbe would Farbrengen Shabbos afternoon. What do people usually do Shabbos afternoon after the chant? Fall asleep. And there were people who would fall asleep by the Farbrengen. And it bothered the Rebbe. The Rebbe spoke about it a few times. In fact, once they decided they're removing all the benches. That's it, everyone has to stand.
Can't sleep.
Yeah, everyone had to stand.
Horse can sleep with it.
And the Rebbe was upset, and the Rebbe came in and saw Farbrengen, and he said, I want you to know, I had nothing to do with this, I wasn't consulted about this. Yeah, I'm not happy when people sleep, but the benches have to be there, people should be able to sit. But one time the Rebbe said that, he said this story of the Arizal and the Alshich. So he said, I thought maybe that's the reason why people are sleeping over here, but the problem is, I speak Pshat and people are sleeping, and then I speak Drush and the people are still sleeping, and I speak Remez and they're still sleeping, and I speak Soid and they're still sleeping. So it can't be because they have a shaykhis only to one part of Torah, not the other. V'akapanim, the point from this story is, which is something which we're going to continue on the topic next week, the Alter Rebbe is going to say, although it is true that every year there's a connection to Torah, but we know that every single part of Torah can be interpreted in many ways. And every yid has a connection to a certain interpretation. And therefore, even if a sefer is based on Torah, it's possible that you won't find your interpretation in there, and that will, Mr. Shem will talk about more at length in the upcoming share.